All right, we're live here. Very excited about today's podcast. Got a great guest. Very excited to have him on. Get everything going here, and we're going to start our show. Go ahead. 2 seconds. Boom. All right. And welcome to the Super Terb Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Terb, your local real estate expert with the Terb Group, Coldwell Banker HBW, where we talk real estate, business, sports, and beer in the triangle. And this is a big episode today because it's episode 60. Can't believe it. I started this podcast probably almost 2 years ago to talk with local business owners, entrepreneurs, agents, coaches, you name it. And I've been having a blast. And I have a guest joining me today shortly, right after my real estate update. Trey Miller is joining me, and I'm going to get to know him. He is a YouTube sensation and everything Elvis. I found him just because of my passion about Elvis Presley. Many of you guys saw me at Halloween. Was rocking my Elvis costume. And Leslie and I went to Graceland this last summer, Sun Record Studios. So I reached out to Trey. I think we got something in common too. I think he played some hoops. And I was like, can you come on the Super Terb podcast, talk more about how your passion for Elvis? And he's like, love to, man. So I'm so excited for him to join the show. Before I bring him on, though, I got to give you my real estate update and just talk about what's going on in the market. And I can't stress enough. We're here in the fourth quarter. Hard to believe it's December 7th. And for many buyers, you guys have heard me saying this is the time to buy. I know rates have gone up over the last few months faster than expected, but rates now are hovering in the mid sixes. I know they fluctuate, but if you've been a buyer that's been on the sideline, maybe that you were priced out over the last couple of years, you couldn't compete. This is the time to get in the market now because, I wish I had a crystal ball. Many are telling us by the first quarter rates are going to come down. I've also heard rates are going to go up. What I like to tell my clients, this is the current market. This is the current market for you to get in with less competition, especially this time of year. And I have so many preferred lenders with so many loan programs that can help get you to a rate that is good for you, a monthly payment that is manageable and within your budget. And we can do something that we haven't been able to do very much over the last couple of years, which is negotiate. So if you're at all thinking about buying, don't let the outside noise scare you. Reach out to me. I'd love to help you accomplish your real estate goals, answer any questions you may have, because this is the time, guys, to get off the sideline and into the game so we can help you get home ownership and start building wealth today versus paying someone else's mortgage. So, again, that's my real estate update today. I'm going to be right back with Trey Miller and Globetrotting with Trey. And welcome back to the Super Terb Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Terb, your local real estate expert with the Terb Group, Coldwell Banker HBW. And I have Trey Miller joining me. Say what's up, man.
What's going on?
Even though everybody knows you as Globetrotting with Trey, if anybody that loves Elvis, this is the guy. And I'm also going to briefly talk about Spa Guy because I know you guys work pretty close to one another. And as I was saying, on the intro, Trey, I saw, I started following you on YouTube. I watch every Tuesday. I'm a history major, so the content that you put out is awesome, man. The way you go out into the field, the way you allow your guests, I'd say, or subscribers to go out and actually touch at least virtually of what you can see about Elvis. So get started, man. Again, I've said your name a few times, but for out there at Spotify, Apple Land, we're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, Facebook. Say everybody your name and where you're from. Where are you sitting at right now, man?
Man, I am in my home in Alabama.
Great. Alabama. All right. Well, if you don't mind, I'm gonna put my Elvis shades on while we talk. I got to get them.
Oh yeah,
you got baby. I think I sent you a picture of my Elvis costume for Halloween. My wife Leslie was Priscilla, so we had a good time with that. So okay. Alabama, what part of Alabama?
Talladega.
Okay, Alabama. So you a NASCAR fan?
I am a NASCAR fan, and I work out at the races a lot with my film work, and it's not too far away. Speedway.
Who's your driver? Or you got old school driver or new school?
Oh well, of course, old school would be Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah.
Being, and you'll like this, being a Michael Jordan fan, I love Michael Jordan. I've got to support his team too. So guess I have me a new race car team to support the 2030 45.
Well, that's where we may have our first kind of objection with one another. Is I'm a Dookie, so I pull for the Devils here. It's strong up here in the Triangle. You can't. It's funny. I have a 14-year-old son, and he likes basketball. I coached college basketball prior to getting into real estate with my mom and our team. And it was funny a few years back, because we've State, Carolina, Duke, and he's like, "Why can't you have Duke Carolina rivalry?" He's like, "Why can't we like both?" I was like, "It just doesn't work that way. You gotta like either one." But it's a great topic here. So you played hoops, right? Did you play ball?
I did play. I played. I was all state in high school. My granddad and my dad are both high school basketball coaches, and my granddad is in the Coaches Hall of Fame here in the state of Alabama. He won 715 basketball games in 32 years of coaching.
Whoa!
And so he's a very inspirational person to me, and my best friend. Granddad was my best friend, and my dad will be in the Hall of Fame. He just retired 2 years ago after 40 years of coaching, and my dad has won 785 basketball
Now,
games.
this is at the high school level?
At high school, yeah.
That's amazing. So did you have any ambition to follow their footsteps, get into coaching? Or because where did you play again?
I played at Talladega High School.
Okay.
And as far as becoming a coach, man, I always helped my dad. I was always on the bench. I was keeping the stats. I was pretty much an assistant coach when I got older. But when I was a little kid, I was always there as well. But, I never really have I wouldn't say would never do it, but I don't really have a desire to be a coach because I've been around it and I see how different it is today.
No, I went to UNC Charlotte from 97 to 02. Just fell in love with the game in fifth grade. And it's my mom's actually my mom's reason. We were from originally in California, but I moved to Raleigh when I was 7. And if you didn't play ball in the Triangle, or it's in basketball, you needed to. So mom signed me up, just to get me out of the house. And anyway, bit me like a bug, and I got into coaching. I went to UNC Charlotte, became a student assistant, coach, manager. They helped me get a job in Arkansas. I was in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, just south of Little Rock by about an hour, at Ouachita Baptist University. Yeah. Coached there for 4 years, got my master's in sports administration. But it was just value of life for me. I loved what I was doing. But it was like, am I ready to move 5 times in 5 years? So my mom has been in real estate over 35 years. I'm like, I'm going to join the team. How hard could it be? I moved back in 06, walking into the first financial situation since 1929. But I've lived with that. We've had highs, lows, but the coaching background has helped me and my clients, because essentially residential real estate is so emotional and psychological. So you have to have that game plan to really help your clients, especially in competitive markets, and just helping them. So that's awesome, man. So your favorite players, is that Pistol Pete, at least that I think I've seen on your.
So, yes. And you being there in Raleigh, Pistol Pete went to high school at Needham Broughton High School.
Yes,
there in Raleigh. And of course, I had to stop by there last time I was in town, and I went into the basketball gym. And then I remembered that Pete's best friend lived there in Raleigh. So I looked up his address and I went to his house and rang on the doorbell. And now I'm good friends with Bob Sanford, who was Pete's best friend growing
That's awesome, up. Man.
And Bob, Mr. Sanford, he spent 3 hours with me that afternoon and told me stories. I knocked on his door, told him who I was, what I would love. I said, Bob, I know you're best friends with Pete. And man, I would just love to hear some stories. He sat there for 3 hours and told me, man.
Was that on one of your videos? Did you record it, or did you just chat with him?
I did not record that. Next time I come to town, I think I'm going to sit down with Bob and maybe let him take me around some places and do the Elvis thing with Pistol Pete.
That would be fun. The cool thing too is, I think someone stole his jersey back, and I don't know if they ever got it back.
Oh, wow.
I'm trying to remember that. They're in Broughton, it was in glass. But when I was was at Charlotte, I'd go work different camps around the area. And one is I went to Clemson, where his dad was, was there, and in Greenville, South Carolina. And I actually, as a man, like I coached, it was like team camps, So I coached, and actually I coached in the old original gym where he played, which was also really cool. Like it was an auxiliary gym to the new one, but that's where he played. And it's amazing his career that he played as much as he did with the heart condition that he has. Pretty amazing just how talented he was. So
His story, man, his story is just like Elvis. His story is so fascinating to me. And I love Pete Maravich, the pistol. He's a legend, and he is the reason that the game of basketball is played like it is today. Pete was doing it back in 1966, 67, 68, 69, 70. And he and Michael Jordan are my two heroes basketball wise.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Well, very cool, bro. I know we could talk an hour about that, but I wanted you to come on mainly for Elvis. So where did you get the passion, or when did you get the passion for Elvis Presley?
All right. So I'm playing college basketball 2007.
And where was that? Where was you playing?
In Montgomery, Alabama. I played at a NAIA school, AUM, Auburn, Montgomery.
All right.
And our team, actually, my freshman year, we had a really good team, and we beat Auburn in an exhibition game at Auburn.
There you go.
And they hated it that night.
Oh.
My team came in there and took care of business, as Elvis would say.
Take care of business, man.
But anyway, yeah, so I'm sitting in my dorm. I believe it's during it has to be during the summer, during Elvis week. And I'm just going through the channels, Michael, and That's the Way It Is was on television. And of course, I've always liked Elvis. I was never like a really huge fan or anything, but I would watch his movies as a kid. And, I knew Elvis. I mean, he was Elvis. But I that afternoon, I watched That's the Way It Is. And during one scene in the movie, it's when he's singing Can't Help Falling in Love.
That was my wife and I's first song, by the way.
All right.
Side note.
He kissed 42 girls on the lips in 2.5 minutes. And I counted it. And I'm thinking like, man, what did this guy have? I would love to learn what he had to be able to kiss all these girls on the lips. And these were girls with boyfriends and husbands. And they're leaving their guys at the table and running up to Elvis and just Elvis kissing them all. And after that, man, I thought Elvis was cool. And that led me to learning about him by reading some books. I started listening to his music, and dude, it just kind of took over. When I really like someone like Pistol Pete, like Michael Jordan, like Elvis, I want to learn everything I can about these people. And that's what happened with Elvis Presley.
You and I are very common like that. It's funny. I'll go watch a movie or like a historical thing, and before you know it, I'm going down that rabbit hole too to learn as much as I can about those particular people or that event. So that's awesome. So that was how long ago?
2007.
Okay, you said 07, so 15 years. That's and then YouTube was in its infancy then. So when did the channel start?
My channel only started 2 years ago.
You got a very good following for 2 years.
And I'm around 15,000 subscribers in 2 years, and I'm growing now. How it really started was I met the spa guy, Billy.
Now, where's he? Is he in Memphis?
No, Billy lives in Tennessee. Hendersonville, Tennessee.
Okay.
And so down by Nashville. And so anyway, I meet the spa guy. I had been watching his shows, Michael, and to me, Billy's the best Elvis YouTuber out there.
Yeah, he's
awesome. I'll take number 2 any day of the week. Me and Billy don't care anything about that nonsense. Other people do, but we don't.
You're probably the top 2. I mean, at least that I see on YouTube. I mean, that's my opinion.
Well, what we do, man, is different. We don't sit behind a computer screen. We go out to these locations and we dig, do research, find people, go and knock on their doors without permission. Hey, and we get stories. We plan nothing, man, pretty much. We just show up and do it. We take care of business, as Elvis would say. And we're about the real story of this man, Elvis Presley. And so anyway, going back to how I met Billy, he came into an Elvis event at Elvis Week 2018, I believe. And he had my camera, which is this camera right here.
All right.
So I said, Spa guy, you shoot with a Sony NX30U? I do too, man. That's what I do all my filming. So we hit it off, and I told him how I enjoyed the show. And then I said, hey, man, if If you ever need any help, I would like to ride around with you and help you film. So a year goes by, and we would talk every now and then, And the next Elvis week, he invited me to ride around with him for the first time, man. It was on August the 16th, 2019. So I ride around with Billy that first Elvis weekday, and we find the ambulance.
Yeah, I remember that one.
On my first
that was amazing.
So Billy thought that I was
in some backyard, right? I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, it was back in a yard, and bushes and trees were growing around it. It had been out there for 15 years, and had taken the beating from the weather and everything like that. So Billy and I drive up on that ambulance that day, and luckily I was there with my camera rolling, and I was able to capture that moment when he finally found the ambulance. He had been searching for 5 years up to this point, and Billy finally found it. Somehow, I guess God placed me there to capture that moment. And so anyway, since then, man.
For the guests listening real quick, where was the ambulance located?
The ambulance was located there in Memphis. It was on the outskirts of Memphis in a nice area there. It was kind of, I would say, about 30 miles from Graceland.
Now, and whoever had the ambulance, did they know what they had?
They did.
Okay.
They did.
That's it. That's interesting.
Yeah. They knew what they had. It was actually her husband that really bought the ambulance. Her husband had passed away and had just been sitting out there for a while.
Okay. All right. We go on. I didn't interrupt you, but I want everybody to hear where the ambulance was.
Yeah. So it was a cool day, man. So after that, Spa Guy felt like I was good luck. The next day that we go to Tupelo, Mississippi, and we're following up on some research, and a guy walks up. We're in a cemetery, and a guy walks up to us and was wondering what we were doing. And 5 minutes goes by, and then he was like, "Hey guys, y'all know that I have an Elvis signature in a history book from my elementary school, right?" "Oh no, man, we didn't know that." "Would you like to see it?" "Oh yeah, we'd like to see it." He takes us to his house, brings out this old history book that his teacher in the 5th grade gave to him, and it had Elvis's signature when Elvis was 10 years old, 9 or 10 years old. Elvis signed the book, the back of the history book.
Was that like to check it out?
It was check. You sign your textbook. Yeah. He signed the textbook. It was his textbook for that year. Wow. So what happened was the guy in 1955, his 5th grade teacher was Elvis's 5th grade teacher, 10 years earlier, and she was giving away the old textbooks. So she handed out a book on each student's desk that day, and he got the lucky book.
Unbelievable. Now, where's that book? Does he still have the book?
No, the Spa Guy, an Elvis collector, Billy got an Elvis collector in touch with him, and that guy bought it.
Very cool.
It was in the Spa Guy's museum for a while there. And, but we have access to that book.
That's awesome. You briefly talked about, how you first saw Elvis and kind of had that, you were interested and to learn more about him, but what would you say? Because there's always these discussions or debates is what, how Elvis separated himself from any other iconic artist. I mean, you can name several that were before or after him, but why do you think Elvis now, Sugar, almost 50 years after he's passed, he's still the king, in my opinion. What do you think he possessed that still does that today?
Charisma.
Yeah.
Elvis had something about him that was he was blessed with. He came along at a time where no one had it as far as what he had. Elvis had the talents. He had looks that the women loved. And he had a factor about him. That charisma factor that I brought up. To us guys, it's the coolness that we like.
Yeah.
It's us seeing like I said, all those girls just going crazy over this guy. What did you have, man? Like, why are you so cool?
Yeah.
But Elvis he came along at a right time when the world was looking for that. Well, James Dean died.
Mm-hmm.
James Dean, who was Elvis Presley's hero, died right there at the start of Elvis's skyrocket to stardom. So Elvis took over that character that James Dean left behind.
Yep.
The leading man, the icon, kind of the, I guess what's the word for the rebel. He played rebel without a cause.
Yeah.
Elvis took that over.
Have you gone out to James Dean where he crashed?
Spy Guy and I have not been able to go out there yet, but that is definitely on a schedule.
Got it.
To capture. Wait, we've captured a few of James Dean's places though. Haven't put it out there yet, but he and I.
No, that's a great point though. Yeah, I just think there's something. We'll get into Graceland here in a minute, but yeah, there's something that's timeless about him, and I also think I listen to him all the time, and I just think he's got so many different sounds, different tunes. You want fast, you want slow, you have rock. I mean, it's all over. It's fantastic. As far as researching Elvis and all the places you've been, where is the coolest place you've been researching Elvis?
The coolest place I've been researching Elvis, man. I've done so much things, man.
What was the Mecca? Like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm standing outside of Graceland, but where I can't believe I'm standing right here.
Going into his Hillcrest house there in Los Angeles.
Oh wow!
Spy Guy and I, we rang the buzzer and they opened the gate. We walked in, talked our way inside.
I got it. Is that on? You got a video on that one? I know.
We do.
Yeah.
We walked in there. Also standing on the stage that Viva Las Vegas was filmed on, in Culver City, California, and that stage is still the same. The basketball gym is still the same. The court is still the same, except they've added a 3-point line now from 66. But we stopped in it's a rec center in Culver City, and no one even knows that that's where the scene was.
That's unbelievable.
So that is on that stage. That was a cool find, man.
Now the house in Cali, have they renovated it all? I mean, is there a lot?
Yeah, they've renovated it. They've renovated it, but all the rooms are still there.
Yeah.
And the swimming pool is still there.
As far as memorabilia, what's the coolest you've touched?
The coolest memorabilia, man. The September 26, 1956 Elvis Tupelo homecoming shirt that he wore. You know that velvet shirt that he's wearing in those cool scenes?
Yeah.
I know the guy that owns that, and he let me, take pictures, touch it. I'm working on he's going to let me put it on there and film a show with it.
There we go. That'd be big time.
Nobody's worn that shirt since Elvis. So Globetrotting with Trey might as well put it on.
That'd be fantastic. So my wife, Leslie, and I, like I said, we went to Memphis, Tennessee. My son, we took him to space camp in Huntsville. And so he was there. We did a vacation, went up to Memphis for a few days, then cut over to Nashville and picked him up. But I was so excited. So we stayed at the Peabody. Okay. And I know there's a lot of Elvis history in Peabody. Do you want to talk about that? Anything you know about there? I know there was a prom. He was there for a prom. I think, didn't he sign his contract with RCA Studios there too?
I do believe he signed his contract there in the lobby. Now, I could be mistaken. I'll have to go back and make sure. But he definitely went to a prom upstairs.
Yep.
If you ever go to the Peabody, you can go up to the top.
And I was there the whole time, didn't know it. I didn't go up there. I found out after. I was so upset. And then there's that famous photo of him, and it may have been when he signed his contract, and I believe he's there with his family or maybe the colonel, or I have to look at that iconic photo. They're standing out in the street, near the Peabody. That's right. We walked right. I mean, and it didn't dawn on me that was right there.
It was right there.
Till I got home, and I'm like, son of a gun. I could have taken some pictures right there, and Peabody was amazing. And so as far as Graceland, we did the Elvis VIP tour, had a hostess, and that was, I got to touch one of his guitars. They take us. I'm sure. How many times have you been to Graceland?
So you did get to touch a guitar?
Yeah, but how many times have you been to Graceland?
I've been inside about probably 4 or 5 times.
Okay. Yeah. So on the VIP tour, there's a little other thing. So we saw, what I thought I told my wife, I said, if Elvis and I knew each other, we'd be boys. Because what I thought was so cool about him is the technology. He was so ahead of his game. So you walk in the house, the dining room, there's the TV. He's got the buzzer. for the wait staff, what have you. They had the first microwave in Memphis. Then you
Right.
go down to the man cave, as we say, had 3 TVs. Well, they only had 3 channels. That's me. I have 3 TVs in my room. Then you've got the projector screen that came down. Then when the items that we were able to look at on the VIP tour, like he had that suitcase phone, that he could call people on. In the guitar, I couldn't hold it, but I touched the guitar. That was really cool. Is there something about Graceland you may know about that the general public doesn't know, or like?
All right, so what I've heard is that cool staircase going down to the basement with the 3 TVs that has all the mirrors on it.
The mirror. I got a selfie looking up.
All right, so I'm gonna say how Elvis would say it, if that's okay.
No, yeah, I mean this is R-rated, baby.
So supposedly he'd walk down that staircase and he'd look in that mirror and say, "Damn, that's one sexy son of a bitch."
I can see that too.
Feels like Elvis.
Yeah, no, that was really cool. The whole grounds, and of course, where the graves are, and where you can actually see where he and Priscilla barked into a tree, and but it's amazing the amount of. We were there in July, and the hostess that was tour guide was taking us around. She's like, "Wait till you see Elvis week." Plus, we're coming out of the pandemic, but it's still amazing the amount of people are coming through there. Then the airplanes. My dad's a former captain with American Airlines, so going in that plane, and I got a kick out of Anne-Marie wanted to go to get play in snow, and or Lisa Marie, I apologize, and he just fires up his jet, flies to Colorado, comes back. I'm like, that's badass. And then then everything as far as the museum goes. I mean, I don't even know the displays. I mean, you could stay there all day, all the different outfits, the suits, the records. What I thought was really cool was the piano in there from the $1 Million Quartet. Like that was really cool. Like that's the original piano. I tell everybody that story. I'll get into Sun Record in a second. And then, of course, where the Colonel signed the contract on the tablecloth. That's a really cool piece. So that's cool. As far as you covering Elvis, who's the coolest person you've met in that? Maybe is there a friend or a family member, someone that you could share with a story that really pops out while you were, researching Elvis?
I've been able to meet a lot of cool people that was a part of Elvis's life. Dr. Nick. I was good friends with Dr. Nick.
You got to meet him.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Hang out at his house with him and talk to him and on the phone and things like that. Last few years of his life.
Was he in Memphis?
Yeah. He still lived in the house that Elvis built it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Elvis designed the home that I got to hang out with Dr. Nick at.
Yeah.
Actually, Elvis had Dr. Nick build him a room in the house so he could escape to. Unfortunately, Elvis died before the house was completed. But Elvis would go over to that house and watch it being built. It's a little fact there that we know of. So Dr. Nick and George Klein, I became close with GK, so I got to hear a lot of stories from.
Now, was he in the Memphis Mafia?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What stories they can share, man?
Who else? Let's see, man. I've been able to talk with 2 of his friends from Lauderdale Courts, Buzzy Forbes and Harley Guy. And I mean, they were friends with Elvis before Elvis was Elvis, the musician. They knew Elvis just the person before that. So that's all. That was cool to talk with them and hear some things from them. Also, I'm friends with a guy named Ronald Smith, who was also a friend of Elvis before Elvis was famous. And he was able to tell me some things that no one knows about.
What's one thing? Anything pop off your,
Yeah, well, Ronald Smith was in a band in 1953, and he ran into Elvis and his girlfriend Dixie down at the Cotton Festival on Main Street in Memphis. And Elvis wanted to know if Ronald knew any bands looking for a singer, because he was trying to get into a band in 1953, Elvis Presley. Okay, so people don't know that. People think that Elvis just one day showed up at Sun Records, cut a record, and becomes famous. No. This guy was like everybody else with a dream, trying to figure out how to make that dream come true. So Ronald Smith invited Elvis down that evening in 1953 to South 3rd Street to a place called the Hi-Hat Club, because Ronald Smith's band was playing that night at the Hi-Hat. So he told Elvis, hey, you and Dixie, come down there, man. I will get you up on the stage and let you sing a few songs for the owner of the building to see if he'll hire you to sing out there. So Elvis brought Dixie down to the Hi-Hat. They sat at a table in the back. Ronald Smith calls Elvis up there, and he said that Elvis sang 3 or 4 songs that night and did a really good job. And the guy sent Elvis across the street that night on South 3rd to a place called Red's Place, which was like an old World War II hangout back then. And it was like he said it was like 2 train carts put together, and they made a bar into it. So
that
Elvis goes over there, Michael, that night after playing the Hi-Hat across the street. He walks across the street and plays in that World War II beer joint that evening as well. Comes back across the street, and Ronald Smith said that Elvis talked with Eddie Bund, which was the guy that was booking the Hi-Hat Club, and Eddie wanted Elvis to play Red's Place. He was going to hire Elvis to play Red's Place.
Yeah.
Elvis didn't want to play Red's Place. He wanted to play the Hi-Hat Club. So Elvis turned Eddie Bund down that night.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, he said, Ronald said that Elvis and Eddie Bund spent about 30 minutes sitting out front of the Hi-Hat in Eddie's car, and they talked.
What year did he go into Sun Record?
He went into Sun Records in...
Yep, you there? Can you hear me, Trey? Let's see. We lost Trey for a second. Nope. Well, we lost Trey. Hopefully he'll get back on. We lost Globetrotting Trey for a second here. Hopefully he can get back on, get back in the studio. I'm froze. But this has been fantastic to listen to with Trey and all these stories about Elvis. It's very cool. We'll give him a couple minutes here to get on. Well, Trey was in mid-sentence, and we lost connection on StreamYard. So I'm hoping that he comes back on the podcast, because this was some really good conversation we were having about Elvis and different stories. And Sun Record Studios, I was just about to ask him when Elvis first walked into Sun Record Studios in that year. And right now, just waiting to see if he can get back on the stream. See if I can invite him again. Let's see. invite one more time. Gotta love technology. All right, well, let's see. Well, everybody, we think we lost Trey. I don't know what technical difficulty it was. He was in mid-sentence. We were having a great conversation. It was fantastic. I'm going to see if I can get him back up. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and end the Super Terb podcast. And if I can get him on, we will record the rest of the content. I had some other great questions to ask him, but I wanted to thank everyone for listening. If you haven't done so, go to the YouTube channel. Go to YouTube at the Super Terb, or I apologize. Go to Globetrotting with Trey. And if you're an Elvis fan, you're definitely going to want to subscribe and follow. So go check him out. I really want to thank Trey for coming on the Super Terb podcast. Like I said, if I can get him back on here in a few seconds, we will get him back. But I just want to thank him for his time. It was awesome meeting him and just hearing about his passion about Elvis. We did have our real estate update in there again, guys. If you're thinking about buying, this is the best time to reach out. Let's get a game plan for you guys. With the current market it is, with the less competition as we're looking right now, especially going into the end of the year, first quarter, let's put a game plan in place for you to win. So, again, thank you so much for listening to Super Terb Podcast. Again, it's Michael Turbot, your local real estate expert with the Out of Terb Group, Coldwell Banker, HBW, signing off episode 60. I can't believe episode 60. Thank you so much for all the support. If you like the podcast, please subscribe. And until I see you next time, remember, who you work with matters. See ya.